sponsoring this event is Beyond Web Apps. So we're actually going to be discussing what you could do beyond the web. So we're actually going to be talking about Firefox and Chrome apps. And we're doing this because we as a company believe that the web is a platform, and we would like to see it being pushed forward. And so with that, you know, Tradeshift is kind of a small startup. The company actually started in Denmark. And we're actually looking for front-end engineers, back-end engineers, and DevOps. So if you're interested, you can come talk to us. Besides that, we're actually going to get started. So the first presentation is going to be about Firefox OS, and we'll let it kick off.
Okay. Hello. Why don't you leave just a second after I start? Well done. And you get the whole rock star thing here. Actually, let me record this as well, because for prosperity and stuff. Record. In case this goes wrong, we still have a record here. That's good. So, I'm Chris. I came here from London, England, and I'm hoping this works now. Well, it should. If not, we record it again. I work for Mozilla for 3 years now. I'm the HTML5 spokesperson, and I'm teaching people about public speaking. So I help engineers talk to humans and the other way around, and salespeople talk to non-buyers and these kind of things. So I'm an engineer at heart. I've been a web developer for 15 years. I built games on Commodore 64 and wild things like that. And then I found the internet and I was happy, because out of a sudden, anybody can be a publisher. Anybody can be on the web. Anybody can be seen worldwide, 24/7, and it doesn't take much to be on the web. I mean, we laugh now at things like GeoCities, but back then it was like a big breakthrough. You know, it's like, if I'm a mom and pop shop that sells flowers, I could have a GeoCities page with 10,000 rotating ad signs, but I still had something that I didn't have before. Not a telephone number that people need to reach and these kind of things. So, I'm talking about Firefox OS, but that's only part of it. Like, Firefox OS is an operating system, but it's also a change. It's a change in the mobile space that we wanted to make. And that's because we're Mozilla, we're a non-for-profit organization. Many people see us as a browser, but we are actually the people that are responsible that we have the internet of today. Because if nobody had stood up to a certain company with a blue E in 1997, 1998, we would have the internet only in offices, only in big corporations, and it would be one operating system that you have to pay for. And we said, like, no, open source, why not? Like, why not give it out to the people and let's build a thing together? Firefox OS is the same thing. We looked at the mobile space, we realized there's two players. There's Android, there's Google. There's Microsoft, there's BlackBerry, there's others as well. But these were the big ones. And both of them were not open and were not based on the web. One of them was open, based on Java, but it's more like not open source, but tada source. Like, tada, we're done, here's a new system, like, please help us fix bugs, and then, like, next version comes around. The other one is just closed, which is good. They build great stuff. It's really simple to build something amazing if you control everything. If you control the hardware, the software, and the distribution, it's very simple to be awesome. It's much harder to be awesome if you have to compare everybody out there and make sure it works okay on a Linux box and on a Windows machine and so on and so forth. It's like comparing closed systems with open systems. It's like comparing a Formula 1 car with a family carrier. Yeah, one of them is much faster than the other one, but try to park a Formula 1 car in San Francisco. It's a bit trickier. So Firefox OS is released in 14 countries. We are out in the market. People can go to the shop and buy Firefox OS phones. Spain, Poland, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Uruguay, Mexico, Brazil, and others too. A lot of them in Eastern Europe are coming. Mobile World Congress is next week. I'm flying back tomorrow. There's going to be more announcements there. And you might see something there. These are not the countries that anybody else goes for. And this is why we did it. We wanted to bring mobile connectivity to the world, the mobile web to people that cannot afford it right now, that cannot access it, because that's unfair. It's the World Wide Web. There's a world thing in there. It's not like Silicon Valley Web or something like that. So we wanted to make sure we reach the countries where there's no mobile web yet. We released with 7 mobile partners and 3 hardware partners. None of these are just sellers. None of these are just like, we bring your phones, you do everything. Every one of those has engineers on the product. So we've got like 10 engineers from Deutsche Telekom, 8 from Telenor, 20 I think from Telefonica. Everybody shares this, and we can do it because it's open source. There's no secrets. And I love open source because I can't write bad code. I cannot hide it, because everybody sees immediately what I'm doing. So I have to make sure I write something good, and my God, people like to say you're wrong. It's very, very easy to get bad feedback, but it's also quite interesting. Hardware options, there's Alcatel Touchfire, ZTE Open. They range from small ones to big ones, but they're all very, very affordable. That's what we wanted to do. We want to break the idea of the mobile web being a rich people web. When an iPhone in Brazil costs you 2 months' wage, that's not right. I don't need certain hardware to reach the web. It's aimed at emerging markets, the low-end market. So we also thought about people having a second-hand phone. Like if a Firefox OS phone, you give it to your kid and it flushes it down the toilet, €100 are gone. Not like your credit card details and your $600 phone and all the things that go in there. And kids do that. It's aimed at an alternative to feature phones. So what we want to replace is the old phones where people can play Snake and do text messaging and these kind of things, and give them something new, give them something better. The problem that we found with this is the better that we love doesn't necessarily mean the better for people like that. Where do you see feature phones right now? You see them in like people that don't have money, but you also see them in people like nurses, at airports, flight attendants, because an old Nokia 3110 you charge like every half year or something. And that thing works. It's awful, it's not fun to work, but it really works. It's open source. All of this is on GitHub. Nothing in the core, nothing in the apps is not on GitHub and not available. That doesn't mean you have to open source your applications, but it means that the operating system itself can survive no matter what happens to Mozilla or our partners. And that's the cool thing about open source, you can't kill it. That's really, really nice. In Spain, like this one here, the Movistar offers the ZTE Open for €69, including €30 of balance for prepaid customers and a 4 GB card. So for €39 you have a phone that has your Facebook, has your Twitter, has your Instagram-ish things, because Instagram itself hasn't built an HTML5 version yet, but has all the things that we think are cool as well and we're using. I live in London, and London is a wonderful place. It's actually, this was in the Museum of London, it's 50 resident communities of over 10,000 people from 33 different nations. 300 languages spoken and 14 different faiths practiced in one city. My whole neighborhood is Jewish on one side, Algerian on the other, Turkish on the other. And I'm the German-British guy in the middle. And everything works. Nobody burns each other. Nobody shouts at each other for having a different faith, because we have to survive in the city together. And it's wonderful to see these experiences. A friend of mine is a kid, and he just moved from London out into the countryside, as you do, because it's much cheaper. And his kid was complaining that all of a sudden all the other kids in the school are white. Like they don't bring the cool food that the other kids brought around, and they don't bring they don't talk about their church and stuff. It's really, really nice to see integration work. And I think there's nothing more exciting than traveling and being somewhere else that you don't, first of all, understand, and then start to understand after a while. I lived in India for a while. It's a shock to the system, you cannot prepare for it, but it's wonderful once you've done it. This is a shop in my neighborhood, and we're in England, like we're a rich country. We have this Doctor Who money, that sterling British pound. But this is my neighborhood with the Turkish part of it. Like all these phones are still being sold. These little feature phones, these things that people have. And we should not forget that this is the world out there. In India, in Africa, nobody has a contract for their phone. They go into a phone store, they buy a phone, they buy a SIM card and put it in. So whatever the shop has at that month is the phone that they will get. It's not that they're actually getting free upgrades for phones like that. This is hardware, it's being built and it's being used. And if it doesn't die, then people use it for months and months. So when it comes to building an operating system for the worldwide use and for replacing feature phones, we needed to think about different things than others do. Like right now, the other mobile market is like, how big can our phone be? How high is the resolution? 3D sounds, projections, and like if you got blemishes on your skin, it automatically changes them when you take photos or something like that. In our case, it was like, how is the battery life? That's like in rural India, I can charge my phone like every 12 hours or so. So I cannot have a phone that dies halfway through. So make sure that whatever we do in HTML5 is actually not eating the battery. Find these things. And that's why we invented things like request animation frame, because we realized that timeouts eat the battery brutally. We invented things like CSS animation hardware accelerated rather than just there. So Chrome and Firefox both work together on these things because we had that need, not because we thought it's a good idea. Because we heard from people, we went for like 7 months in different markets and asked people what they use their phone for and how they use it. And this is so insightful, it's wonderful. It's also so liberating because you have like a 2-year-old Android phone and you're like, I don't need to upgrade yet, I'm still cool. I'm still one of the cool kids. Connectivity is a massive, massive thing, of course. I mean, being on the phone, you're always offline. You're on some train, you're in some elevator, you're basically in some hole where you cannot get connections. And even at home, connections can be terrible. This is my brother's connection in Germany. Like 45 megabyte per second, 12 megabyte, 0.12 up. That's a 10 megabyte connection. This is all he gets in our village. So he pays a lot of money for a connection he doesn't get. I've got a 25 in London for £10 a month. In my Swedish flat I got 100 megabit up and down because the government sponsors it. But if you build an app now, no matter what platform, make that thing work offline. Otherwise you have not an app. Otherwise you made crap. I'm sorry. The thing has to do something offline, otherwise why do we package it as an app? We might as well have it as a website. It doesn't make any sense to have an app that doesn't do anything when I cannot be connected, like on a plane, like somewhere else. Good thing in America you don't have much choice. I mean, like the whole Comcast thing, like there's one provider now, so it's much easier. The other problem that we have with people is that even if I get an iPhone in Brazil, even when I get an iPhone in Africa, I don't get content for it. Because I'm blocked out. My country doesn't have any money, sorry. Like, you cannot access the iTunes store, you cannot get any content that is relevant. How do I get an app that makes me, for example, find water holes in Africa into the iPhone store? It's not going to get through. People tried because it's not worth it. It's not enough people downloading it, it's not enough people making it. And this is just frustrating because to me, as a web developer, that's the web. I put it there, you reach it from wherever. It might take you hours to download, but you can get to it. Making geofencing on the web is just moronic to me, I'm sorry. This is just 1980s, 1970s contract put into a high-speed new environment. Payment is another big issue. A lot of people in the third world countries or in emerging markets don't have credit cards. I've got an English credit card with lots of pounds on it. Can I get petrol here when I have a rental car? No, I don't, because my postcode is N42XX, and you have to put in a zip code to get petrol. So I have to go into the petrol station and give them cash or get some money out of the cash point, which looks like the science console of Dr. Spock here. And this just drives me nuts. So we need to find a way how we can worldwide sell apps and how people can make money with apps worldwide. And the answer is carrier billing. If you have a phone, you have a SIM card, you pay for that SIM card. So when you buy apps, you get that money on that SIM card. So it comes at the end of the month at your contract, or you can buy a SIM card with so and so much money on it, and then your kids can buy apps for only so and so much money, and you don't get the $12,000 contract out of a sudden, or the bill from Apple that like, what did you do? Oh, I played Candy Crush. The other thing is publication. If I want to be a publisher on the web, as I said, I open a website, people in China can see it sometimes, people in North Korea can see it, people in Africa, people everywhere can go there. As a publisher, I want to do things, but if I hear you pay $99 and you need to have an American account to become a publisher or a UK account to become a publisher, I'm shot. I can't make my business. I can't come up with something relevant to the country that I'm in. And this is why we said, okay, the web is the platform. We don't close it in. We don't make it a thing that you have to be paid to play, so to say. Doesn't make sense to me. In America, it's all the bands like, you pay the venue to have a concert. What? In England, we get paid for playing, and it's the venue's problem to get people in. And people are busy with other things. This was one of my favorite pull requests lately. It's like, I will take a look later, much, much later, because I'm Ukrainian and we have a revolution right now, sorry. So I can't look at your pull request on my code because there's people outside killing each other. And people are busy with other things, but they could make a little app to make some money on the side, to talk about their public transport, to show people how to get from one city to another easier. If you buy an iPhone for a lot of money, you connect to it, you find somebody in America who has a credit card to get things for it, it's very frustrating to open it and then see like a blank spot that your city doesn't exist on the map. A local map, OSM maps, things like that, much, much better. So we have a few like walking apps for Serbian countryside. This thing would not go into the Apple Store. This thing would probably be in the Play Store, but it would be hard to find. But publishing in Serbia, together with the biggest Serbian telecom company, made that app maker a lot of money and made him successful in his country as well. The press came to him like, dude, you got mobile phones now, awesome. And you find these really weird things that people want. Like we went to Brazil and we asked people, yeah, so mobile phone, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? What do you need? Can it play radio? Was one of the biggest requests. Everybody listens to radio on their phone. They don't listen to MP3s that they bought, they listen to radio, which is something I hadn't seen since the 80s when we had these cool headphones with like little radios inside that now look really silly. But because of these requests and because of knowing what people want, we built APIs to make that available. There's a web radio API. Every phone has an FM transmitter in there. You can listen to radio on every phone, it's just not turned on in most of them. It's actually part of the networking stack and necessary for the phones. That's why you can use like ultrasound data connectivity as well. So HTML5 and the web gave us all of that, gave us all the answers to that already. It's a inbuilt distribution, it's the web. It's simple technologies used by lots of developers. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is not magic. It's very simple. We make it very hard nowadays by putting it into like 15 different libraries and like telling people you need to learn Unix before you do CSS. But it's not hard. It's hard to do it right, but it's not hard to do the first steps. It's evolution of existing practices. We got 15 years experience in enterprise, in e-commerce, in CMS. We know the web. We've done it. It's there and we've used it. And it's open, independent, and standardized. Not one company owns the web. And that, till my dying day, I will defend that that doesn't happen. And Mozilla does the same thing. That's why we're here. We had promises of HTML5. When the first iPhone came out, Steve Jobs went on stage and said there's no SDK required. Safari is the best browser on the planet. Debatable, but he said that. And it does everything that you need. A tell URL with call desiler. A map URL will open up the maps. We made everything HTML5 because it's easy to use. That changed rather quickly. And sadly enough, it didn't change much. This is caniuse.com. Caniuse.com tells me what I can use in different browsers. And when it's red, it's bad. So you see the Android browser, iOS Safari, and Opera Mini is totally red in a lot of things. A lot of the standards of HTML5, the basic ones like form validation, are not available in mobile browsers that come with the mobile operating systems that are closed or semi-open. They also don't really support performance that well. A web view is great, but it's never as fast as a native app. I would say by design, but that would be the cynic in me. But it's just sad that we basically have to jump through hoops to make something work in open technologies when you could use the technology that you have to be a 99 developer for and download a 5 gig SDK before you start developing, which if I'm in Algeria would take me 3 days before I actually get my first line of code written. You shouldn't have to ask for being allowed to do something, and we shouldn't have to ask to be able to get a certain app. Every few months there's a new iOS app that everybody needs. Then as an Android user I have to wait 5 months till somebody's happy enough to port it there as well. I remember when Instagram came out for Android, there was this big outrage in iOS users like, oh, Android cameras are so bad, so now Instagram will lose all its quality. And I was tweeting like, yeah, now you have to look at what poor people eat. Because it's like, this is what people do, they just take pictures of their food. This is the Frankfurt airport, and it has this restaurant called Ask for Delicious Pizza, and you're like, what if I don't? What do I get? Do I get like the shitty pizza, the one from yesterday? Like, do you have to ask for delicious? No, delicious is there. It's the same with app development. Nobody goes out there and says like, I want to have something nourishing. We go out like, I want to have something good. And the same should be with your app development. You don't make something nourishing, you make something good. You make something that people want because you put your efforts in, you want to do it. Redundancy is a big, big thing. This is a rental car I get in America where I have 2 keys, 2 remote controls to open the door and sound the alarm in case I forgot it on a traffic light again, or in the parking lot. I don't know what my car looks like because I'm so tired. And it's on a ring that I can't open. So I've got 2 sets of keys that are together the size of a European car, and I really cannot do anything with them. Why they put that on one ring, I don't understand. And the same is to me our marketplaces. The same to me are closed systems. They're redundant. We have the internet. We have HTTP, which has all its problems, but it connects computers worldwide. They've done it for 15 years. I don't have to go through another market, log in before I can play. That's just, to me, step back. I don't buy software on CDs any longer, get them mailed to my house, put them in my computer and install them. But an app is more or less the same thing. If I have to download 15 meg for a new level in a game that is just like a few K, that's just not right to me. That's a step back in distribution. And actually, if you look at the apps that are hot right now, people are rebelling already. People don't want these like really shiny, cool, massive apps that do everything awesome. Flappy Bird was a success because it looked shit. It was a success because it was hard to play, it was completely different to the things that other people see, and it was just like, there was no fairness in that. There was no like, okay, you can buy now a new level that it makes it easier to you. It was like Pac-Man. Pac-Man didn't get easier, it just got harder and harder and harder. And that one made it interesting for us to play. Snapchat as well, it's like, what is this Snapchat? It's like ICQ. It's like a chat system, for Christ's sake. There's nothing new in that thing. But people love it. Like when I gave my family Firefox OS devices for Christmas, my godson, the first thing is like, okay, I get Snapchat. Really? Like, I give you this thing with WebGL and like real 3D animation and cool music, and he just starts typing to people that he knows. You're like, awesome, okay. That actually makes me happy to a degree. So we had a lot of HTML5 issues that we wanted to fix with Firefox OS, and now I'm going through all the things what we've done there, so it's code coming, sorry. But just a few lines of code. So, tablet is coming as well, man, whatever. So here's the architecture. We have Linux Gonk ADB enabled. This is the same core as Android. So why should we reinvent the wheel when it's already there in open source? That part of Android is completely open, so fair enough. Then we put the Gecko rendering engine on top of that. That's the rendering engine that's inside Firefox. We put web APIs and web activities on top of that. I will talk about that in a second. Gaia is the interface of the operating system, the desktop, the apps that come with it, the dialer, the desktop machine, the photo app, and third-party HTML5 applications. All of this, HTML5. JavaScript, CSS, HTML.